Everybody wants to be wealthy, everybody wants to be happy, and everybody wants to be fit. We like to think that we like to view the world as linear, which is I'm going to put in 8 hours of work, I'm going to get back 8 hours of output, right? It doesn't work that way. The guy running the corner grocery store is working just as hard or harder than you and me. How much output is he getting? What you do, who you do it with, how you do it, way more important than how hard you work. When I'm unhappy about something, I look for what is the underlying desire that I have that's not being fulfilled. It's okay to have desires. You're a biological creature. You're put on this earth. You have to do something. You have to have desires. You have a mission. But don't have too many. Don't pick them up unconsciously. Don't pick them up randomly. Don't have thousands of them. My coffee's too cold. Doesn't taste quite right. I'm not sitting perfectly. Oh, I wish it were warmer. Oh, my dog, pooped in the lawn. I didn't like that. Whatever it is. Pick your one overwhelming desire. It's okay to suffer over that one. But on all the others, you want to let them go so you can be calm and peaceful and relaxed. And then you'll perform a better job. This idea that you're going to have linear output just by cranking every day at the same amount of time, that's machines. Machines should be working 9 to 5. Humans are not meant to work 9 to 5.
We're living in a time where everyone is obsessed with hustle culture. Work harder, stay longer, grind until you make it. The message is everywhere. Success means sacrifice. If you're not suffering, you're not serious. And most people accept this as fact. They think the only way to get rich is to outwork everyone else. Put in more hours. Push through the pain. Never stop. But what if that entire belief system is wrong? What if working yourself into the ground is actually preventing you from building real wealth? Naval Ravikant, a highly successful Silicon Valley investor and entrepreneur, challenges this conventional wisdom entirely. His approach to wealth, happiness, and productivity runs counter to almost everything modern society teaches us about success. So in today's episode, Naval Ravikant takes us through a blueprint that many would consider radical. Before we continue, please support us by hitting the like button, subscribe, and enable notifications for more in-depth content. Thanks for joining us again. Enjoy the rest of the video.
The reason why people like hearing me is because if you go to a circus and you see a bear, right, that's kind of interesting, but not that much. If you see a unicycle, that's interesting, but you see a bear on a unicycle, that's really interesting, right? So when you combine things you're not supposed to combine, people get interested. It's like Bruce Lee, right? Striking thoughts, philosophy plus martial arts. And I think it's because at some level all humans are broad. We're all multivariate, but we get summarized in pithy ways in our lives, and at some deep level we know that's not true, right? Every human basically is capable of every experience and every thought. You're a UFC comedian, commentator, podcaster, but you're also more than that. You're also father, lover, thinker, etc. So I like the model of life that the ancients had, the Greeks, the Romans, right, where you would start out and when you're young you're just like going to school, then you're going to war, then you're running a business, then you're supposed to serve in the Senate or the government, then you become a philosopher. This arc to life where you try your hand at everything. And as one of my friends says, specialization is for insects, right? So everyone should just be able to do everything. And so I don't believe in this model anymore of trying to focus your life down on one thing. You've got one life, just do everything you're going to do. There's the analogy around mountain climbing. Like if you find a mountain and you start climbing and you spend your whole life climbing it and you get, say, 2/3 of the way, and then you see the peak is like way up there, but you're 2/3 of the way up, you're still really high up. But now to go the rest of the way, you're going to have to go back down to the bottom and look for another path. Nobody wants to do that. People don't want to start over. And it's the nature of later in life that you just don't have the time. So it's very painful to go back down and look for a new path, but that may be the best thing to do. And that's why when you look at the greatest artists and creators, they have this ability to start over that nobody else does. Like Elon will, be called an idiot and start over doing something brand new that he supposedly is not qualified for. Or when Madonna or Paul Simon or U2 come out with a new album, their existing fans usually hate it because they've adopted a completely new style that they've learned somewhere else. And a lot of times they'll just miss completely. So you have to be willing to be a fool and kind of have that beginner's mind and go back to the beginning to start over. And if you're not doing that, you're just getting older.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's willing to be a fool. It's just, to me, that the most exciting thing is to try to get better at something, to learn at things. I mean, it's really exciting when you just have incremental progress in something that you're completely new to.
Yeah, I live for the aha moment, that moment when you connect two things together that you hadn't connected together before, and it fits nicely and solidly, and it kind of helps form a steel framework of understanding in your mind that you can then hang other ideas off of. That's what I live for. It's that curiosity fulfilled. And it's what little children do too. You know, my little son is always asking why? And I always try and answer him. And half the times I realize, actually, I don't really understand why. I just have a memorized answer for you, but that's not really understanding. I was raised by a single mom in New York, and she used the local library as a daycare center because it was a very tough neighborhood. And so she would basically say, when you get back from school, go straight to the library and don't come out until I pick you up late at night. So I used to basically live in the library, and I read everything. I read every magazine. I read every pictograph. I read every book. I read every map. I just ran out of stuff to read. I just read everything. So I got over this idea of that reading a large number of books or reading a book to completion as a vanity metric. Because really, when people are putting up photos on Twitter and Instagram of, look at my pile of books that I'm reading, it's a show-off thing. It's a signaling thing.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And the reality is, I would rather read the best 100 books over and over again until I absorb them, rather than read all the books.
Right.
Yeah, because your brain has finite information, in finite space. You get enough advice, it all cancels to zero. There's a lot of nonsense in books out there too. So I don't read anymore to complete books. I read to satisfy my genuine intellectual curiosity. And it can be anything. It could be nonsense. It could be history. It could be fiction. It could be science. It could be sci-fi. These days it's mostly sci-fi, philosophy, science, because that's just what I'm interested in. But I will read for understanding. So a really good book, I will flip through. I won't actually read it consecutively in order, and I won't even necessarily finish it. I'm looking for ideas, things that I don't understand. And when I find something really interesting, I'll reflect on it, I'll research it, and then when I'm bored of it, I'll drop it, or I'll flip to another book. Thanks to electronic books, I've got 50, 70 books open at any time in my Kindle or iBooks, and I'm just bouncing around between them. It's also a little bit of a defense mechanism to how in modern society we get too much information too quickly, and so our attention spans are very low. So you get Twitter, you get Instagram, you get Facebook, you're just used to being bombarded with information. So you can take that to, you can view that as a negative and be like, I have no attention span, or you could view that as a positive. I multitask really well and I can dig really fast. If I find a thread that's interesting, I can follow it through 5 social networks, through the web, through the libraries, through the books, and I can really get to the bottom of this thing very quickly. It's like the Library of Alexandria that I can research at my disposal. So I no longer track books read or even care about books read. It's about understanding concepts. We're always signaling, right? It's like, rather than really looking at yourself, you're looking at how other people look at you. So it's like this one remove mental image. And it's kind of a disease because social media is making celebrities of all of us, and celebrities are the most miserable people in the world, right? Because they have this strong self-image that gets built up. It gets built up by compliments. Every time somebody pays you or me a compliment and we're like, oh, well, thank you, right? Then that builds up an image of who we are. And then one idiot comes along, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100, and they can easily tear it down because it doesn't take many insults to cancel out a lot of compliments. And now you're carrying around this big, weighty self-image, and it's just very easy to be attacked. And because you're famous or you're well-known, people want to attack you. So being a celebrity is no good. It's actually a problem. Like one of my tweets is, and these are all reminders to myself, is you want to be rich and anonymous, not poor and famous. Anonymity is a privilege. On the other hand, it's self-inflicted. I mean, we brought it on ourselves.
Yeah, I don't think we knew what it was, though.
We did, but we carry on. So it tells us we are getting something out of it. So, there are times when someone will approach me in public and I'm a little resentful. And there are other times when just like, actually, I'm really grateful that, I worked for this. I got this. Right. This is the payoff. Just embrace it, smile, grin and bear it. I did a tweet storm called How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky. And it got pretty popular on Twitter. And it's really about wealth creation. I just used the clickbaity title. And it's trying to basically lay out timeless principles of wealth creation that if you absorb them, you become the kind of person person who can create wealth, create business, make money. And my theory behind that is like, there are three things everybody wants. There's actually more than three, but let's just start with three. The three basics. Everybody wants to be wealthy. Everybody wants to be happy, and everybody wants to be fit. And I know there's a lot of virtue signaling that goes on, like we don't want money, and I don't care about being happy, and happiness is for stupid people. But let's face it, like you want to be rich and happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Like that's the trifecta. Now, of course, you also want an internally calm state of mind. You want a loving household. So there are other things that come into it, but those three, I think, they can actually be taught. Right? And a fitness, I'm not going to teach. There are a lot of people who you've had on here, including yourself, who know a heck of a lot more about fitness and health than I do. But I was born poor and miserable, and I'm now pretty well off, and I'm very happy. And I worked at those, and so I've learned a few things. There are some principles, and so I try to lay them out, but in a timeless manner, where you can kind of figure it out yourself. Because at the end of the day, I can't really teach anything. I can only inspire you and maybe give you a few hooks so you can remember things when they happen, or put a name to them. So this podcast actually ended up explaining this tweet storm. So there's a tweet storm with like 36, 38 tweets, got very famous, got translated into dozens of languages. And these were principles that I came up with for myself when I was really young, around 13, 14. And I've been carrying them in my head for 30 years. And I've been sort of living them. And over time, I just realized, like, sadly or fortunately, the thing that I got really good at was looking at businesses and figuring out the point of maximum leverage to actually create wealth and capture some of that. And do it in a very long-term kind of way, not the, banker, crash the economy, get bailed out kind of way. But, build businesses and help people and provide value kind of way, especially when applied to modern technology and leverage in this age of infinite leverage that we live in. So the podcast is just explaining each tweet. So these are little 3, 4, 5 minute snippets. I don't like to say the same thing twice. I don't like to explain in detail. I feel like if you have something original and interesting to say, you should say it. Otherwise, it's probably been said better. So that podcast tries to be information dense. It tries to be very concise. It tries to be high impact. It tries to be timeless. And it has all the information. I think you need the principles that if you absorb these and you work hard over 10 years, you get what you want. So I've got the one on wealth creation. I'm going to attempt to do one on happiness is a big word, but happiness and inner peace and calm and all that. Because what you want is, you don't want to be the guy who succeeds in life while being high-strung, high-stress, and unhappy and leaving a trail of emotional wreckage with you and your loved ones.
Which is more common than not.
Yeah, because you got to focus, and it's very hard to be great at everything. You want to be the guy or the gal who gets there calmly, quietly, without struggle. You want to be the person who's when there's a crisis going on, you want to be the calmest, coolest cucumber in the room who still also figures out the correct answer.
Now, Naval doesn't believe in the 9-to-5 grind. He thinks it's a trap. According to him, renting out your time is the worst way to build wealth. Even lawyers and doctors charging hundreds of dollars per hour aren't truly getting rich, because their lifestyle expenses keep rising with their income. They never save enough. They never escape the cycle. The real path to wealth isn't working harder. It's about ownership. You need equity in a business, whether as a founder, investor, or by building a personal brand that accrues value over time. That's the only way to gain true financial freedom.
There's social consistency, right? Humans have a need to be highly consistent with their past pronouncements. So the way I started my first tech company was I was working inside a larger organization, and I told everybody that I was going to go start a company. I was like, I hate this place. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur. 6 months pass, 9 months pass. Then people start going, you're still here? I thought you were going to go start a company. Were you lying? Right? That was the implication. So we kind of know this, right? Social contracts are very powerful. Like if you want to give up drinking, right, and you're not serious about it, you'll say, I'm going to cut back. I'm going to have only one drink a night. I'm going to only drink on weekends. You tell yourself. But if you're serious, you'll announce it on Facebook. You'll tell all your friends. You'll tell your wife. You'll say, I'm done drinking. I'm throwing everything out of the house. You'll never see me drink again. When you say that, you know you're serious. So I think a lot of these are choices that we make, and happiness is just one of those choices. And this is unpopular to say because there are people who are actually depressed, chemically or what have you. And there are people who don't believe that it's possible because then it creates a responsibility on them. It says, oh, now you're saying if I'm not happy, that's my fault. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that just like fitness can be a choice, health can be a choice, nutrition can be a choice, working hard and making money can be a choice, happiness is also a choice. If you're so smart, how come you aren't happy? How come you haven't figured that out? That's my challenge to all the people who think they're so smart and so capable. If you're so smart and capable, why can't you change this? I would argue that now when I say happy is one of those words that means a zillion different things.
Right.
It's like love, right? What does that mean?
Right, I love cheese.
I'm going to define it a little bit more tightly, right? So let's go back to desire, right? This is old Buddhist wisdom. I'm not saying anything original, but desire to me is a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Okay, and I keep that in front of mind. So when I'm unhappy about something, I look for what is the underlying desire that I have that's not being fulfilled. It's okay to have desires. You're a biological creature. You're put on this earth. You have to do something. You have to have desires. You have a mission. But don't have too many. Don't pick them up unconsciously. Don't pick them up randomly. Don't have thousands of them. My coffee's too cold. Doesn't taste quite right. I'm not sitting perfectly. Oh, I wish it were warmer. Oh, my dog, pooped in the lawn. I didn't like that. Whatever it is. Pick your one overwhelming desire, and it's okay to suffer over that one. But on all the others, you want to let them go so you can be calm and peaceful and relaxed. And then you'll perform a better job. Most people, when you're unhappy, like a depressed person, it's not that they have a very clear, calm mind. They're too busy in their mind. Their sense of self is too strong. They're sitting indoors all the time. Their mind's working. They're thinking too much. Well, if you want to be a high-performance athlete, how good of an athlete are you going to be if you're always having epileptic seizures? If you're always like twitching and running around and like jumping and your limbs are flailing out of control? The same way, if you want to be effective in business, you need a clear, calm, cool, collected mind. Warren Buffett plays bridge all day long and goes for walks in the sun. He doesn't sit around like constantly loading his brain with nonstop information and getting worked up about every little thing. We live in an age of infinite leverage. What I mean by that is that your actions can be multiplied 1,000-fold, either by broadcasting at a podcast, or by investing capital, or by having people work for you, or by writing code. So because of that, the impacts of good decision-making are much higher than they used to be, because now you can influence thousands or millions of people through your decisions or your code. So a clear mind leads to better judgment, leads to better outcome. So a happy, calm, peaceful person will make better decisions and have better outcomes. So if you want to operate at peak performance, you have to learn how to tame your mind, just like you have to learn how to tame your body. An intellectual athlete, you want to function like an athlete, which means you train hard, then you sprint, then you rest, then you reassess, you get your feedback loop, then you train some more, then you sprint again, then you rest, then you reassess. This idea that you're going to have linear output just by cranking every day at the same amount of time, that's machines. Machines should be working 9 to 5. Humans are not meant to work 9 to 5. First of all, the first thing, if you're going to make money, is that you're not going to get rich renting out your time. Even lawyers and doctors who are charging $300, $400, $500 an hour, they're not getting rich because their lifestyle is slowly ramping up along with their income, and they're not saving enough. They just don't have that ability to retire. So the first thing you have to do is you have to own a piece of a business. You need to have equity, either as an owner, an investor, shareholder, or a brand that you're building that accrues to you to gain your financial freedom. But there was no boss hierarchy where you're like the third middle manager down. In the farming age, we became a little bit more hierarchical as we had to run farms, but even those were still mostly family farms. It's industrial work with factories that sort of created this model of thousands of people working together on one thing and having bosses and schedules and times to show up. The reality is, if you have to go, I don't care how rich you are, I don't care whether you're like a top Wall Street banker, if you have to go, if somebody can tell you when to be at work and what to wear, and how to behave, you're not a free person. You're not actually rich. So we're in this model now where we think it's all about employment and jobs. And intrinsic in that is that I have to work for somebody else. But the information age is breaking that down. So Ronald Coase is an economist who has this Coase theorem, a very famous theorem, but it basically just talks about why is a company the size that it is? Why is a company one person instead of 10 people, instead of 100, instead of 1,000? And it has to do with the internal transaction costs versus the external transaction costs. Let's say I want to do something, let's say I'm building a house, and I need someone to come in and provide the lumber. I'm a developer, right? Do I want that to be part of my company, or do I want that to be an external provider? A lot of it just depends on how hard it is to do that transaction with someone externally versus internally. If it's too hard to keep doing the contract every time externally, I'll bring that in-house. If it's easy to do externally and it's a one-off kind of thing, I'd rather keep it out of the house. Well, information technology is making it easier and easier to do these transactions externally. It's becoming much easier to communicate with people. Gig economy, I can send you small amounts of money. I can hire you through an app. I can rate you afterwards. So we're seeing an atomization of the firm. We're seeing the optimal size of the firm shrinking. It's most obvious in Silicon Valley. Tons and tons of startups constantly coming up and shaving off little pieces of businesses from large companies and turning them into huge markets. So what looked like the small little vacation rental market on Craigslist is now suddenly blown up into Airbnb. This is one example.
That's a great example.
But what I think we're going to see is, whether it's 10, 20, 50, 100 years from now, high quality work will be available. We're not talking about now driving an Uber. We're talking about super high quality work will be available in a gig fashion, where you'll wake up in the morning, your phone will buzz, and you'll have 5 different jobs from people who have worked with you in the past or have been referred to you. It's kind of like how Hollywood already works a little bit with how they organize for a project. You decide whether to take the project or not. The contract is right there on the spot. You get paid a certain amount. You get rated every day or every week. You get the money delivered. And then when you're done working, you turn it off and you go to Tahiti or wherever you want to spend the next 3 months. And I think the smart people have already started figuring out that the internet enables this, and they're starting to work more and more remotely on their own schedule, on their own time, on their own place, with their own friends, in their own way. And that's actually how we are the most productive. So the information revolution, by making it easier to communicate, connect, and cooperate, is allowing us to go back to working for ourselves. And that is my ultimate dream. Even when I run a company and I have employees, I always tell those people, hey, I'm going to help you start your company when you're ready, because I think that's the highest calling. Maybe not everybody will get there, but it would be fine if we were even working a 10-person company or 20-person company is way better than working in a 1,000-person company or 10,000-person company. So this idea that we're all factory-like cogs in a machine who are specialized and have to do things by rote memorization or instruction is going to go away, and we're going to go back to being small groups of creative bands of individuals setting out to do missions. And when those missions are done, we collect our money, we get rated, and then we rest and reassess until we're ready for the next sprint.
Naval also rejects the idea that success requires constant stress and misery. He argues that happiness is a choice, just as fitness or wealth is. Most people don't want to hear that because it puts responsibility on them. But Naval insists that if you're smart enough to build a business, you're smart enough to figure out how to be happy. The key is managing your desires. Every desire you have is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Most people carry hundreds of unconscious desires and stay miserable because of them. Naval's advice is simple. Pick one overwhelming desire and let everything else go. That allows you to stay calm, focused, and effective. He compares high performers to lions, not cows. Lions don't graze all day. They train, sprint, rest, and reassess. Knowledge workers should operate the same way. You don't get results by clocking the same hours every day. You get results by working intensely when it matters, then stepping back to recover and reflect. Linear effort doesn't produce linear results. A person running a small corner shop works just as hard as you, but the output is completely different. What you do, who you do it with, and how you do it matter far more than how many hours you put in. Naval also believes the future of work will reverse the trajectory of the industrial age. Information technology and AI is making it easier to work independently. In the coming decades, more people will operate like freelancers, choosing projects, working remotely, and getting paid based on results rather than hours. The gig economy isn't just for drivers. It's the future of high-quality creative work. And that shift will make people happier, more productive, and ultimately wealthier than any factory-style job ever could. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.